Lewis structure. So the Lewis structure is also known as the Lewis dot diagram, but it's basically a diagram that shows the bonding between atoms of a molecule and lone pairs of electrons that exist in the molecule. In the Lewis structure, there's a thing called the octet rule, and the octet rule just states that you have to have 8 electrons in your valence shell. So when you are creating a Lewis structure, people have different orders and the way that they want to create it, but I listed 7 steps to how I would do it. So the first one is you have to determine the number of electrons of your molecule, and after that you figure out the number of electrons that are needed to satisfy the octet rule. After you do that, then you determine the number of bonds in the molecule, and then you determine the central atom. And all of this, it might take you a couple times to get it. Like when you draw the number 5 is draw your structure. It might take you a couple times to get the right structure that's going to work, but it's all trial and error, and you'll eventually get it. But once you draw your basic structure, then you're going to place the electrons, which are the dots, outside of the atom. And if the electrons aren't adding up on your atoms, then you probably need to go back to number 5 and try and redraw your structure. But once you figure that out and you get all the electrons outside of the atom, then if you have some leftover ones, then they go around the central atom. So here is an example, NO3 minus. So nitrogen has 5 electrons, oxygen has 6 electrons, but you have to multiply 6 by 3, so you get 18. Then you have this, so you add 1. So 18 plus 5 is 23, plus 1 is 24. So you have 24 total electrons. So now you have to figure out the number of electrons needed to satisfy the octet rule. So here we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8. We also, but we determined the central atom. It was N, nitrogen. And then here is our basic structure. So now that we have our structure, we're going to put our electrons around our atom, and hopefully we would have set up our structure correct so that we didn't have to try again. But so you have to satisfy the octet rule on all of them. So this is satisfied because 2, 4, 6, 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. Now here we have a problem because this is only 6, but the rest of the electrons go around the central atom. So we put this here, so now everything is satisfied. You have 2, 4, 6, 8. That one's check. 2, 4, 6, 8. Check. 2, 4, 6, 8. Check. Everything is checked off. There are some exceptions to the octet rule. Like if there's an odd number of electrons, so this has 11 electrons, and it has an octet, which is this, on an outer atom, and remainder electrons on a central atom. It's saying this is central and this is outer. That's an exception. Another exception is if there's less than an octet. So this compound has 24 electrons. But this central atom, it only has 6 electrons. It does not complete the octet rule. But this is just an example of one of the exceptions to the octet rule.